link. All right. Welcome everyone to the committee meetings for Wednesday, April 7th. Start off with Health Services Committee. Chair Lynn Handel.
Good evening, everybody. Opening Health Services Committee meeting at 6:03 p.m. The first resolution is authorizing agreement, Greene County Mental Health with the County of Columbia. And Jason, did you want to just explain this like you did yesterday?
Yeah, just come on up here, Jason, please.
Matt and I met with Jason today, and he gave us a lot of insight to what's happening in his world.
So this agreement, I think actually we tried to withdraw. I think it's supposed to be probably into next month, but I can explain what it is just to give a primer. There's a certain type of evaluation that sometimes court ordered. You know, if someone gets arrested and if there's a belief that the person might have mental illness that makes them so impaired that they can't assist in their own defense, they're not competent to stand trial. In order to determine that, they ordered this type of evaluation called a 730 evaluation. And they have to be evaluated by 2 psychiatrists or a psychiatrist and a psychologist. The county only employs 1 psychiatrist. I am a licensed psychologist, but now that I'm the director of community service, there's a few conflicts of interest that prevent me from conducting that evaluation. We only have 1 person that can perform this evaluation. So I reached out to Columbia County Mental Health and asked them if they would be willing to contract with us or we could do their psychiatrist when you get one of these evaluations. So we could do one, and then their psychiatrist does the other. If the 2 psychiatrists disagree, then you actually need a 3rd one. You could use another one from Columbia County. And the agreement, they agreed on a really rock bottom payment for us to do this, $350 for them to do the evaluation. Other county agencies that are contracting for people to do those evaluations are paying at least $1,000 more. So Columbia County agreed to do that. The problem was that we just got another one of these orders from the court, so the court is waiting for us to, eagerly waiting for this to come through. So we were trying to get it quickly, but when the county attorney reviewed those contracts earlier this week, he had some issues with it. So I thought we tried to withdraw it from today's agenda, but it must have still appeared. So as I understand it, this contract is not approved by the captain. So I think we have to, and he was going to contact Columbia County and come up with another alternative, another contract. So I think that this is not supposed to be up for resolution.
Start date would change, Jason. Obviously, it'd have to be amended yet January 1st of this year until the end.
Yes.
So we could table this for this month, and even if it came in later this month, we could add a health services meeting.
Okay.
If we needed to, and do a special meeting.
Okay. Great. We went ahead and we scheduled our psychiatrist to do this new evaluation, so we're waiting until we get approval for the next.
And was this a reciprocal agreement to where we would do the same for them?
They employ 3 or 4 psychiatrists. They really don't need us to do it.
Okay.
We just need it.
Jason, how many do we normally go through a year?
It's on average maybe, I don't know, 4 in a year is probably a lot. You happen to have 2 there.
I think on the bills, we did 2 last month, and I believe they were over $1,000 each.
I'm sorry.
I think we did 2 on the bill, on the finance committee, on the bill audit. There were 2, and they were over $1,000 each.
Those were done for Central New York Psychiatric, is that right? For the
I don't recall, but they were with the public defender fees.
Okay. There is a Greene County resident at Central New York Psychiatric Center. If you're you're one of these folks that are found not competent to stand trial, then you are remanded to near state psychiatric center after you do it.
No, I don't think this was the monthly bill for the one guy. These were psychological evaluations of people who were in trouble.
There are a number of different types of evaluations that the court can pass on. I don't know.
Let's go clarification.
Very good.
And the fees, like you said, it costs a lot more.
Let's just, how do we withdraw this then?
You can offer to table it.
Okay. Can we table it?
You can.
Okay.
You have the power.
Woo-hoo. We are going to
Again.
table this till either later on in the month or next month. On to resolution number 2. Memorandum of Understanding, Greene County Public Health and Greene County Emergency Medical Services, Inc., COVID-19.
Rivera, Bloomer.
Vera, Bloomer, all in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? That's carried. Third resolution, authorizing agreement, Greene County Family Planning and Centers for Disease Protection. Rivera, Davis, all in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? That is carried. Anybody have anything else for health services this evening?
I know, do we have any upcoming pods that are?
The only first dose pod we had this week was at Blackthorn. It was yesterday. That was announced at the end of last week. The rest of the pods, Monday, Thursday, and Friday, are all second dose. So Thursday and Friday are at Community Life Church. I just got the schedule for Penny for next week. It's significant. There's pods every day. There's multiple pods in multiple areas of the county. So I will say that our vaccine supply has gone from the 300 or so that we were getting probably the first 10 or 12 weeks. The last 4 weeks have been in the 1,300 to 1,500 range. And yesterday we received 2,500 for next week. So the supply has ramped up. Now they're doing both second dose pods and an increased number of first dose pods. So those folks that are doing that are extremely busy trying to set all that up before they even get there and spend the day doing these pods. I will say that they now started, I know the first couple of pods that we did, we were handwriting the cards out. It was a bottleneck in the beginning on the end of the pod. They've solved that problem. They now print stickers out with all the dose numbers, the locations, the second dose date, all of that is now stickers. They just get put on a card ahead of time. So somebody's doing that before the pod even takes place.
It just flows.
It
The
speeds
process
the
is
process
awesome
up.
to see,
Right.
really. And yesterday, we hit our 10,000 mark. We vaccinated 10,000 residents so far yesterday, 591 at Blackthorn. It's just a really cool process, very professional.
Looks like next week, Greene EMS will start running some pods on their own. So they'll take maybe 100 or 120 doses out to a couple of the firehouses. They do some smaller pods and operate on their own. Without them being able to take that stuff and do it, we'll be there.
Can you send us when that?
Yep, I just got it from Penny.
And then are we gonna put that information on our social media sites?
We will. There's no links yet for scheduling.
Signups, okay.
But she just has the schedule listed out as to when they're planned. Generally, what will happen is they'll submit that to the state then develops the links for those pods with the same number of doses that they requested, and then the state sends the link back to Dan. So we can schedule that way, and that's what we generally will see, that link.
Do we know how many, on our Greene County list? How many more people do we still have that have signed up on the list that haven't gotten the vaccine? We don't know.
Yeah, I don't know what's left.
The number's inaccurate because people sign up and then they get it someplace else. They don't take themselves off.
Yep.
So it's difficult to just pick up that number, right?
And people are still signing up. A lot of times what I've seen happen, I think we had about maybe 30 yesterday.
Yeah. They
that
just showed
didn't
up.
show, they scheduled,
Yeah.
but then they didn't show up. Either they found it was somewhere closer to them or on a different day or whatever, for whatever reason, they scheduled and then didn't show up.
The suspicion there is that when the J&J vaccine is announced, which is a single shot, people are going maybe, and then not including their scheduled vaccination date. That's hypothetical, but that's.
And we don't get all that information as to who gets what.
You guys,
Some-
go ahead.
No, go ahead.
I was gonna say, you guys still have the situation room for the districts, right, with where you talk with the governor's representative?
Yeah.
The control room.
Yeah, control room. Do you guys ever considered, I mean, you have that barcode on the back of your driver's license? Why are we writing out cards and in the Stone Age when they could just take a scan and you go and you get the shot and boop, and it's already with you?
I asked Penny about that because when the
It's so
state,
logical.
when the state sends out their links, it does have a QR code
Right,
with
so,
your particular dose. So even your schedule has your own individual barcode to it. The problem that our emergency operations people have with it is it's dependent on internet capability wherever they are and a good power source that you can rely on. There's been a lot of pods that only use that and wind up having to stop because either their internet disappears or they lose power. Penny and Dan prefer to keep the paper trail because that doesn't stop anything. They can just keep going. But I did ask her that.
yeah, I just figured, I mean, you have, instead of a card, you already have your license, your ID on you, and you could get pinged, whatever they read it.
Yeah, everyone actually gets scheduled through the CDMS system and that gives you your own individual QR code.
Right.
It doesn't
Go to
even have to be
Department of
your
Health and DMV, I mean, you would know who's who and what's what.
Yeah, they prefer not to use that system.
Well, broadband,
It would, yeah, if we had, big city centers that you could depend on that capability being there. But even when we were sitting in the Coxsackie Athens High School gym or middle school gym, there was no service in there.
That's just a suggestion.
Yeah, no, I did ask that question of her. I think the first or second pod that we did. Well, I also talked to Ulster County about it because they use it.
But I know Jason mentioned this morning to Patty and I that their clients were able to get that too.
Yep. I think OMH came down and did them, didn't they?
Well, OMH offered it to our clients that were eligible, same eligibility to the rest of the population. But the clients had to go to Albany for it, but there's a subset of our clients that don't have transportation. We were able to get the folks from Albany to come down to the clinic, and we were able to bring 109 of those clients that aren't able to get to Albany into the clinic and got them vaccinated last week. Both vaccines, the second one was just last week.
Yeah, that's good. And in case anybody hasn't seen our registration form, I've had a couple of questions come in to me on people who are homebound. Those people, we are able to do that, and there is a drop-down box on our registration form that says, I am homebound, yes or no. So if they fill that form out and put yes, it's very easy for Dan to separate that and sort those people, stick them to the side, and we can either have a public health nurse or Greene EMS to go directly to their house. So we're able to facilitate that now. And we have done that. But other than that, the supply is up. I will say that they are working their tails off every single day.
Friday, they were exhausted Friday. I get SOS calls Friday afternoon.
it's a long day. It is. You're
It
on your
is.
feet all day long. It's an easy day.
And public health is still doing the rabies, the Lyme, or family planning, early intervention, there's still all of that going on. COVID testing, all of it's still happening while they're trying to figure all this out. So,
Are you using up all the vaccines
so far, yeah.
so far yet?
Yeah.
I was wondering when we're gonna reach the saturation point.
Yeah, I guess and I didn't ask Dan about it. Usually, like when we schedule them in Catskill, they seem to fill relatively quickly. And when they're on the outskirts, with the same number of doses, it's taken a couple of days longer to fill those pods. I think that what they're moving to, like taking 100 doses instead of 500 doses out to the outskirts. they
I
will-
think it's
they'll
important to
fill-
get to those outskirts. I mean, we need something up in Wyndham.
Yeah, no doubt. And I think those will fill fairly quickly. Rather than taking 500 or 600 doses, you take the 100. If there's more demand, you go back the next week. And I think that will work out very well. But that's also, that's the new licensing that Greene EMS has, is to be able to take and do those on their own. And they've worked very closely with Penny and Dan to be able to enter into the CDMS system or fully register somebody that gets an extra dose or
I
enter
think
into
the
NICE.
Greene EMS technically could go.
Yeah, I didn't look to see where those were. I think there was 3 places next week where Greene EMS is gonna go.
Strathfield, Ashland, and
Baltimore, I think.
maybe one to Baltimore.
And then the county's gonna do, I think it was 5 other ones. So, yeah, the concerns have been heard. And I think they're at a point where they pretty much got this down to a science. Now this will be a little bit of a learning curve to do multiple pods in multiple locations on the same day. Right, I think they're up,
Logistically, that's big.
they're up to the task.
If anybody ever wants to go and see how one's done and volunteer for the day, they're always looking for help.
I volunteered Monday, Tuesday, tomorrow, and Friday.
Do they have a lot of volunteers still from the reserve corps?
I guess it depends on the day. Generally, they've got enough. But I know yesterday she was still looking for help tomorrow. That's a Pfizer pod. It's a little bit more involved in reconstituting the doses, and it takes a little bit longer for the process to happen. She's still looking for some help for tomorrow. They're getting them out.
Is there anything else to come before health services this evening? Not motion adjourned? We are adjourned.
Matt, there's three first doses at Community Life Church next week, Monday, Wednesday, Thursday. Second doses Tuesday and Friday, same place. And then there
When you
are,
get a chance, just forward it.
yeah, I will, I want to put it on the record here.
Oh, all right.
So everybody knows. And then it's Monday, the 12th, the 19th, and the 26th. Greene EMS will be going to Prattsville, New Baltimore, and Ashland with 100 and 120 doses for each one of those pods. And I will, I'll send that
It'd
out.
be interesting. to
It's all
see
Moderna too, right?
I believe that's all Moderna. Yep.
Whether we've reached this saturation. Some people don't want it.
Yeah.
I know.
And that's everybody. That was why we were screaming 4 weeks ago to start opening up the eligibility list.
Right. I think you mentioned 10,000. By Friday afternoon, we'll be above 11,000. I think next week's total volume between first and second doses, they're doing a total of, I think, 3,300 next week. Combination between second and first. That's a lot. That's a lot. That's a lot. The location that we're gonna use next week, that we don't have to tear down now. So logistically, we can walk out at 5 o'clock and leave the place as is and not tear down, build up every day. So, community church really helped us out. Because you can envision just the logistical setup to tear down, it's just incredible.
He's wondering if she can switch to county resources. Sorry, let me know when you're ready then. You're ready. All right, Mike Lewis is not here. County resources, Matt?
Sure, I'll call this meeting to order at 6:23 PM. There is one agenda item. Reappointing members to the Greene Workforce Development Board.
I'll make that motion.
Motion by legislator,
I'll second.
legislator Overbaugh seconds. Any discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? So carried. Anything else to come before county resources?
Yeah, next week. Warren, what is the employment thing over at the college next week?
The career day?
Thank you. April 14th, I believe it is. College, they're doing it virtual, so a lot of the employers are able to showcase themselves, prospective employees. Columbia and Greene County, yeah. And that works through the Workforce Development Board as well in the college.
I think everybody received in their email the report from Cornell Cooperative Extension. Right, the report. Anything else to come before county resources? Okay, motion to adjourn. Take the motion. Second by David. Abstain.
You got that one right.
All right. Good evening, everybody. I'd like to call the Public Safety Committee meeting to order at 6:25 PM. A couple things going on. I had spoken with the sheriff today. He's unable to attend. I don't think he's on Zoom. He was. Yeah, he's taking care of some personal stuff. But his updated monthly report that was emailed to everybody. The only thing that was not in there is the new marijuana laws or legislation. He's working on that, so that's going to be ongoing. The new jail update, turn that over to Sean.
Yeah, just a brief for you. As I believe I mentioned essentially previously, we have received the temporary C of O from the Department of State Code Enforcement. That C of O handles everything but the 4 pods, the living centers themselves. That those C of Os are issued directly by the CFC. We also had a Department of Health inspection. The Department of Health for this facility, though, will only be involving sanitation. A little bit early for them to come out since you're still in a construction zone and it's still dusty and stuff, but they will be back prior to opening. Punch list items are getting really very close to the end. There this week, for those of you who have been on the tour, inside what we call the secure area, the main thoroughfares, we kind of nicknamed them Main Street and Broadway. Those DCT floors will be cleaned and then waxed this Friday, Saturday, and Sunday from a finished product standpoint. So the medical facility has been pretty much completed. This month we have a opening of an RFP for medical services as well. We've entertained 2 local agencies and then 2 national firms as well. We'll see how that comes in. At this point, I'm going to schedule I maybe want to say a final jail committee meeting, probably for the last week of the month.
when I believe that all of the punch list items will be complete, including the pods as well. That would leave the project as complete with the exception of the final asphalting of the driveways and parking lots, the striping thereof. We're waiting for the weather and the asphalt plants to open up. And then the final landscaping. Landscaping, we have really redone the landscaping from what the bid specs were. The original plan called for a lot of deciduous trees, and some of the board members here said that means leaves in the fall, and that means clogging of drains and that kind of stuff. So we are revamping those and replacing the majority. I think there's only going to be 4 deciduous trees left on the entire site. Moving those into more evergreen trees that are less maintenance. Also changing out mulch beds and replacing them with stone. You know, mulch every 2 years, pretty much you got to come back in and re-mulch. So that would be, I think those landscaping changes will probably be the final change orders we have in the system that we're doing to make the site more maintenance free, I guess is at the end of the day what we want to do. I don't have a date yet on either of those 2 projects, asphalting and landscaping, but Jim, asphalt opens up when?
Monday.
So, you know, asphalt probably won't be that far out. Landscaping maybe a little bit deeper. So then after that, the issue would be having CFC to come in to review the actual pods themselves, as well as the final review of protocols and procedures for the correctional officers to follow. And but technically, we're still slated for July 1st from an inmate standpoint. I think the last hurdle will be the staffing. CFC has determined that we would need to staff 25 COs or professional staff, but in order to have 25, you probably need 34 with weekend vacations, sick days, what have you. We currently have, I believe, 28 or 29 authorized positions. We just had a test in February. The test results are out. There are 19 candidates on those tests. Typically, there's a 50% fallout of that once you go through background checks before we begin the interview process. But I'm hoping that will give us over the top final personnel push. And then just as a safeguard, we've planned another civil service test in June, just in case of either the need for more. We also have to be careful with gender as well. Actually, surprisingly, in the last 6 months, we actually have hired many female COs, which is good. For many years, we were kind of upside down on our ratio. That was good as well. But I mean, everything is moving forward. We are still under budget.
Isn't that a similar staffing level that we had at the old facility?
It actually,
37.
we had 37 or 38, I want to say, from lieutenant down. That did not include the jail superintendent. We're probably going to be 2. I think at the end of the day, we'll be 2 less from a CO standpoint. And that would include the ability to furnish the upstairs of the one pod that we kept the plumbing out of. You still only need 1 CO per pod, so even that expansion of rooms wouldn't increase the staff. So we're getting down to short strokes. So those of you who haven't been in a while, if you haven't made the tour in 2 months, you definitely want to come back in now. Because now it looks like an office, it looks like a correctional facility, and
Furniture's moving in
today. Yeah, I expect the sheriff, I think the remainder of the sheriff's furniture will be this week or the beginning of next. So sheriff administration should be able to move in, let's say the 3rd week of April. That'll be probably a slow movement. We got phone changeovers and computer changeovers and those types of things that have to go along with that. And I probably just jinxed myself, but everything is going okay, and July 1st is around the corner.
Thank you, Sean. The other things we have on here is I have Tom Farrell here to provide basic outline for the mutual aid plan. That was last week. You guys had a conference call. Just John, Randy Gilmer out of the phone. So, can you give us the rundown?
Good evening. Tonight I have a Randy on both. Randy's going to give how the mutual aid plan works inside the 911 center. I want to talk about working with the agencies on a daily basis. I just want to go over the numbers for this past month. EMS calls 495, fire calls 176, police calls 1,093, unknown calls 723 for a grand total of 2,487. The mental health received 27, public health 3, social service 60 for a total of 90 calls. So without any further ado, Randy, you want to start?
Thank you, everyone. Director Farrell had informed me a couple weeks ago that the legislature wanted to hear about the EMS mutual aid plan and what the 911 center is. And the EMS system in Greene County is very fragile. Greene County does not have a BLS or an ALS medical problem. We have a transport problem. We have qualified first responders that work the field. 2 years ago, we had Northern Dutchess Ambulance out of Dutchess County standing by at Carroll McDonald's for the entire county of Greene. That's alarming. Alarming on myself as the manager within the 911 center. There are several contributing factors that play into why the system is fragile. Lack of adequate staffing. Again, this costs money. Limited EMTs and paramedics. This is a local and statewide problem. Our call volume in Greene County is increasing. Extended times for EMS calls. Incidents are becoming more complex. Extended travel times to the scene, and then from the scene to the hospital. We don't have a hospital here in Greene County, so our only choices are to go to Albany, go to Columbia, and then over to Oneonta area. And we have a growing population requiring emergency medical services. Also, extended drop-off times at the hospital. This has increased since the COVID-19 crisis. Patients are just not dropped off, and the ambulance turn around and they're back in service. There's an extended period of time that EMS agencies are waiting at the entrances of the ER, clearing the patients before they're actually brought into the emergency room. There's a lack of adequate staffing that is causing a logistical nightmare in the 911 center. Greene County EMS agencies have a large response area, and for the most part, 7 out of the 8 transporting agencies only staff 1 ambulance, frequently depend on mutual aid coverage. Catskill Ambulance, they're the agency that staff 2 or 3 ambulances. Oftentimes throughout the day, the 911 center is forced to revert to a mutual aid plan to cover the EMS calls. This alone adds a tremendous amount of stress to the 911 center and delays patient care. Most, if not all, EMS agencies in the county have more than 1 ambulance, but only staff 1, causing the 911 center to lean on mutual aid departments to cover calls, both in county and out of county. The calls at both ski resorts during the wintertime, the 2 prisons, and the assisted living facilities, mainly here in the town of Catskill, add a huge strain to the EMS system. All three agencies that service the ski resorts and the two prisons usually have one staff BLS ambulance on duty, 24 hours a day, 7 days a week, 365 times a year. On certain holidays during the wintertime, the two mountaintop agencies will attempt to staff a second ambulance. If they do, this is a tremendous help to the 911 center. Although the MCI mutual aid plan is in effect, it is not used in the 911 center because it pertains mainly to a mass casualty incident. It does not capture the everyday move up or call coverage. You used to be able to depend on out-of-county agencies to assist our in-county agencies, such as Greenport, ES, San Diego, Northern Dutchess. They no longer can assist because they're in the same problem we're in. What's the fix? I don't know. But I know that the mutual aid plans that we're using are more just what we're used to using. There's nothing out there that is on paper that tells us who to dispatch and who not to. The other day in Mr. Lawrence's area, we had multiple sets of tones for an ambulance to the Hannaford. And by the time we were all done, there was probably a good 10 to 15 minute delay, and we were able to get Wyndham to come down. Why? The Valley agencies were tasked. It's a busy operation, but the hurdles that we're experiencing are a logistical nightmare for this 911 center. We have to do something. But again, the problem isn't with the level of care, it's a problem with transporting these people from the scene to the hospitals. Paramedics are great. Sean is highly trained, as well as the EMTs, as well as the rest of the paramedics. Problem is, once we get them there, how are we going to get the patients from the scene to the hospital?
We need an ambulance to transport.
Correct. Correct.
You also bring up about
The helicopters that we depend on, we use them for certain calls that require a rapid transport to the hospital or to a trauma center. Mainly used for severe traumatic injuries, but we have also been using them for cardiac arrest, stroke victims, to get them to a tertiary care center faster. So the helicopters, when they can be used, they can't be used in every single incident. They have an issue of what they're not going to fly if it's raining or if it's too windy outside. Last couple of days we requested a helicopter to certain points, and it was just too windy for them to fly to the mountaintop. So they revert back down to the state police barracks down here in the valley that has a landing pad. So, but we do often use the helicopter, and they sometimes help out with transport when we're delayed with or cannot get an ambulance to a certain scene to transport. Caveat behind that is most of the time you need that ambulance to transport to the landing zone to need the helicopter. So it's a double-edged sword. It's chaos. Yes, sir.
Randy, the 8 agencies ask for us 2 on all the time.
Correct.
The other 7, there are 2 available, they could put them in.
They could, yes.
Is it strictly a financial concern?
I would believe so.
Not a personnel concern.
Well, they also need the staffing, and as I pointed out, there's only a certain amount of EMTs and paramedics that work down here, and it usually bounces back and forth. So yes, they have the vehicles and the ambulance to do transports, now it's a staffing level, but probably no different than what you guys are going through with the jail and trying to staff the jail. So it's a multi-faceted problem. Well, there's the solution, what's the solution?
A mutual aid plan at this point would not help us. Because we're doing what we can with what we have.
Right, I mean, because every day, Bill, it changes, you know. One day, we were being bombarded with calls in the Carroll area, but tomorrow we'd be bombarded with calls down here at Catskill, which could change an entire mutual aid plan. So the dispatchers who do an awesome job are, you know, moving ambulances just by, you know, okay, wait a minute, we have extended amount of calls over here, so we have to push our resources over there. So the resource management that they're doing is being done on blind.
Can you do that without being asked by another agency to say, okay, Catskill, all my ambulances are out, can you move me an ambulance from Carroll to the town line?
We have done that in the past, either between myself and Sean calling in and saying that this, move these ambulances here, and we'll take the consequences later if somebody doesn't think it's right, but.
Well, if
yes,
there's a plan that says that's what we're gonna do, then it's
Right.
not a consequence.
Correct.
It's by design.
Right now, we have nothing formulated on a piece of paper that says we can do this.
Are we working on that?
That's something that myself and Sean have talked about, trying to get everybody to work together on solving this problem.
Yeah, we do it in the fire service.
Right, exactly.
It seems like the towns, according to what we heard from the town of Catskill supervisor, the towns are, you know, providing mutual aid when needed, but you're saying there's not enough
There's
for
not
them
enough.
to go around.
Correct.
So really, the towns need to look at, you know, really would be a town decision whether to add an extra ambulance into their town budget.
Right.
Yeah, you gotta find spots like two to drive an ambulance. You know, it's not even advanced life support, but basic life support, first aid to provide that.
I mean, we're already sharing a lot of our personnel between agencies.
There's many employees that are working 80 hours a week.
Right.
You know, the guys go 40, 40, whatever.
You gotta decontaminate these things, so no matter if the person's positive or not, they go to the hospital.
Yeah.
By the time they test them, admit them,
Say it a lot
they
of
have
times.
to sanitize that whole ambulance, all the gear and everything else to be ready for the next call.
Monday, an incident that was a routine EMS call, had an ambulance committed at Albany Medical Center for 51 minutes. That was what they stood by there. After they arrived, they were still stuck in the holding pattern for 51 minutes. 51 minutes led to 3 additional EMS calls in the county that we have to try to, you know, give resources to render assistance to.
Do we as a county recommend, you know, make recommendations to towns, saying, you know, X number of mutual aid will need in your town?
I think it
Well,
all
not
comes.
telling them what to do, but almost.
Defer to Sean on that, you know, as far as guiding them to put on extra crews, that all comes into the money, since I don't have to hear that. You know, it's, people have a hard time, you know, paying a crew when today they might not be busy, tomorrow they will. So it's a balancing act.
It seems the personnel is the issue too. It doesn't mean, I mean, it doesn't seem like there are
There's not a
EMTs
big
filling
pool.
out applications and waiting for somebody to call them. It seems like there's, and why do you think that is? Why is there such a
I think it's the training,
deficiency?
the training that people have to go through, they don't wanna, you know, and then for the training that they go through, is the price tag for their services, is that right? Is it, are they getting paid adequately enough? Is it, you know, a whole bunch of.
And it's stressful.
That our college.
It's a stressful job. It's not for everyone.
Right.
Does the
It's stressful.
college provide training, or do we recommend to the college that they implement some type of program?
I'm not sure about EMT.
I think they do be a fee.
Paramedic school is done through Hudson Valley and Collinsville, that's where we live. Employees, it's a higher level education.
Right now, is going to train, EMS, he's got 12 people, normally it's one. There was a study not too long ago that EMS did. If I'm not mistaken, 5, 6 years ago. Was there, what came out of the study? Was there a possibility of this needs discussed by the Greene EMS? Their medic trucks, they ambulances.
That was a study that our task force did.
Remember, I know it was a study somewhere. But those are the things you gotta think outside the box. Because having cars, it's just too much time.
I do think that the telemedicine coming on board now may help with some of that stress on the system. If they can take 20 minutes at a call and be back in service rather than taking an hour and a half or 2.5 hours, that may help. It remains to be seen, but I know it's working that way in other counties where they're doing it. Rensselaer County is one. So hopefully that takes a little bit of stress off the system, but they're new. It's new here.
That was the issue at Cass. I mean, they're transporting somebody to Albany, or they're out of service for a while.
Yeah, and if you're going from Hunter to Albany or from Prattsville to Albany, yeah.
There's also issues with the mutual aid agreements and the way they get set up too, and it's hard on a county level. Everything in the county ambulance wise, with the exception of Greenville Rescue and Durham Ambulance, they're all municipalities. Those need to be handled by individual and municipal agreements, which is the first step of getting this done. The 911 center does the best they can. I mean, Randy's done wonders out there with getting everything up to speed, the CAD system and everything. It has the ability to do a lot. We've already implemented throughout countywide, no matter what the agency is, whether they're paid 24/7, they have proven quarters, they're at home on calls. It doesn't matter what the agency, we've already implemented probably about a year ago, that no matter what agency it is, at the time of their second dispatch, if there is no acknowledgement or response of anybody going to the building to get the ambulance, we're automatically dispatching a mutual aid company along with their second calls. If they crew up, they get somebody in there, they can always cancel that mutual aid or they can use the mutual aid. Either way, we're trying to shorten the time of getting people there. The restriction with the 911 center being able to just say, hey, I want to move this ambulance over here because this area is strict. Now it comes down to certificate of need areas that are all defined by the State Department of Health. It needs to deal with that on the county level, but the staffing issues is basically going to fall back down municipality. And that's where you get to push back, and like Randy was talking about with financials and staffing levels. It can be started with the county. There are a couple of ways of doing that. That would require, and part of this came out in this task force meetings over the years. The county theoretically can hold a CON and have individual contracts with all the providing ambulance services, whether it's intermunicipal agreements or contracts with Durham and Greenville. It would fall under that county's operation at that point. Because right now, technically, you can only move a standby unit unless specifically requested otherwise from the field to a district line. So in theory, you couldn't say, there's no ambulances on the mountain, I want to take one of Catskill's 3, and I'm going to put them up in Jewett to cover the mountain, or anything like that. Theoretically, they can only go to the Gallenville area, or the Caro border, and it restricts it by that. The MCI plan, that's a different story. State MCI plans, you have more resources because now you can not only go with local responses. The rules kind of change when it comes down to a mass casualty incident. There's kind of like no borders. and agencies can't really turn down a mutual aid once there's an MCI declared. Then you could go up from just the county resources, you could go into regional resources, and then state MCI plans, God forbid a major catastrophe or incident, you could pull resources from throughout the state. Like Randy was saying before, it's more the transport ambulance stuff. The county has done wonders with ensuring that there's adequate paramedic coverage throughout the county. With Catskill adding 2 to the system in the past few years, Wyndham's 1, and now 5 on duty 24/7 throughout Greene MS. It helps. And our office has not heard of any complaints of lack of paramedic coverage. It's more so the questions every now and then of why is it taking so long to get my grandmother out of the house towards the hospital and that type of situation. Greenville Rescue stepping up to the plate has definitely helped that situation because that was putting a big burden on the center of the county where Carroll and Durham, only had the 1 crew. Carroll would go due to whatever issues they had, so now they're relying on, at the time, the volunteer service covering a huge area and then stripping that area. So that has helped. They went to 24-hour coverage, full paid with 1 crew. The local agencies could use more personnel, funding, however the case may be, but that's the big hiccup is they're trying to figure out how to do that. Greene EMS has their own paramedic system status, which is the movement of units to try to, cover the best in the county as they can. And as units go down, they kind of get bigger coverage areas. That's where the hard part is with the ambulances because it's not a single system. It's multiple agencies as a part of a whole 911 system. If we're going to try to implement any coverage for open areas, that's also going to add an extra job function of the 911 dispatchers down the road of being able to move these units around once we can figure out the best way amongst the municipalities on how they want to do this. At this moment, they need to be requested by field units most of the time. If they want somebody to stand by for them while they're out on call, if the crew remembers, if it's a local policy, whether they do or don't, that's on the individual agencies. Over on Sunday, we had a situation. We used 3 paramedics and the 3 center of the county ambulances on 1 incident. That was tied up there. It had to be requested, but I made a request for Catskill to move a unit to Carroll, because that was it for the entire center of the county. Wyndham was covering the entire mountaintop, and the other Catskill unit in quarters was covering the entire 9W corridor. But with their local policy, they will not, at the moment, send their last paramedic unit out of the town. So in that event, if one of those ambulances would have went out on a call, the other one is now unavailable for anything except for Catskill, which could put a bigger strain in a hurry. And that's a lot to ask on these dispatchers to now try to figure out everybody's internal policy. So down the road, it would be nice to have something across the board. It's helping. We have a few of the valley agencies that are not compliant on our request to have units pulling in service every day so that the dispatchers can monitor. So when the par levels of what ambulances are left in service, they're still showing available on their screens in the 911 center, even though they may not have a crew, which could also delay notification of getting any kind of ambulance response in a mutual aid situation. We're trying to work with them, the administration of the 3 valley ambulances that are lacking on that department to police their people and get back home.
Does everybody use the electronic PCR book now?
All the agencies, I believe, are on with electronic charting. Ashland and Hunter were the last 2, and everybody is now on a consistent platform.
So can we use that system through the CAD to know when there's an ambulance in service?
The 2 programs won't link. However, along the lines of the mobile CAD, Randy and through Neil Kelleher We just went live on Monday in all of the paramedic trucks with the mobile CAD, which is the same as what the sheriff's office is using.
Yeah, that's what I was.
Eventually, we want to branch that out. It seems to be going well so far. I mean, we're only a few days into it. But that is nice.
Tomorrow.
Yeah. So right now, whenever we have connectivity, the dispatchers can actually monitor where the medic trucks are throughout the county, you know, pending decent service. And eventually that would be nice once the ambulances do it as well. And then that way you'll know what units are actually available.
Yeah, absolutely.
Because you would be logged off if there's no
Necessary.
crew in an ambulance. And that would be a step to help that situation. But we're also worried about at the moment, if these agencies can't call up in the morning and tell the 911 center, hey, this ambulance is in service today with a full crew, the other one is not. We have to get people in the muscle memory of getting in, logging in, making sure you're available. Think around that.
But Columbia County, 911 center does move all.
Yep.
ambulance.
Yeah, we're gonna touch base on that.
I was just gonna say.
Yep.
You should plan on meeting.
Yep.
Keep posted.
I want to reach out to Columbia County again. They have a system over there, which is similar to what I was mentioning in the beginning. The County of Columbia holds a certificate of need for ambulance service in the entire county. They do not own an ambulance. They do not provide ambulance service. They have a contract with any ambulance service within the county. There's 6, I think they're down to different companies in Columbia, and they've all finally signed on. The way they operate theirs is they budget a certain amount of county funding for that. So when a Greenport ambulance is needed to move, they become a Columbia County EMS unit, and now the county can move them anywhere they want. The home agency that's doing the movement through the county system will get paid, I believe it's around $100 to use that unit as a county unit to standby coverage wherever they need. The home agency via contract cannot refuse that move. That's one benefit on the county aspect of things. The billing aspect gets a little tricky, and that would be another meeting to get some more. But the way it would work is if that Greenport unit does a call as a county unit in Galatia, the county will pay a set amount for doing that call. It gets billed out under the county agency. Whatever money gets recouped from that goes back to the county. It's kind of sometimes you win, sometimes you lose on the county level, because if they're paying, say, $700 for that agency to cover the call, the billing revenue may only be $500, it may be $1,200. No matter what it is, the entire billing revenue would then go back to the county, and it helps offset that. But
Who's doing that billing? Do you know?
I believe the agencies bill it under the county's ID numbers through Medicare, Medicaid, and the county has its own participating number, but I believe the individual agencies will bill it under a separate entity.
So that may be up to the town that's put on another
And
ambulance.
that's how, and they've actually had agencies over there, we'll use Topate for an example, is a town that really didn't have a lot of funding to put on a lot of ambulances. They were running one crew. There's days they have 2 or 3 crews on it. Because when other agencies weren't staffing, they had the extra and they were getting moved a lot, so it's helping offset their staffing costs. But it's an option to research more into. But I think with the mobile CAD, and if these towns start trying to find ways to, at least during peak times in their areas.
Well, I think that's gotta be a larger conversation through regional
Oh, yeah.
EMS councils
Yep.
and you guys
Yeah.
with those agencies.
Yeah, I
Say, look, what can we do to help each other out? Certainly, you would need to know what resources are available at every shift.
Exactly.
So you would even know who you could call.
I think it's something worth investigating.
Yeah.
Maybe a set of reviews.
Take somebody like the the town of Ashland, who does a phenomenal job, and kudos to them. They cover 3 towns. Cover their own. First call on Prattsville, first call on Lexington. You're looking at almost a 25-minute travel time just from their station to Broad Street Hollow in Lexington.
Most of the time to get to the ambulance.
And their second due up for falls in Wyndham, if Wyndham's out. That's a huge lift that I don't know how they do it, and kudos to them. But for how long can that model be continued to stay?
They even been going into Sparrow County.
They actually inquired as to, not that they don't want to help their neighbors and help them, but they're taxed as well. So they talked with the folks in Scarry County and said, hey, listen, we can't be going into Conesville and Gilboa's and stuff of that nature just because it was taxing them. Again, they have 2 ambulances, but usually one crew at a time.
What do they have to do to like, sound cliche here, but like recruit or get younger kids? I know they used to have like the Explorers program, and they would take the younger kids who were interested and they would tag along, per se. Is there anything like that still? I mean, what do they have to do to like entice younger people?
It's still hard sometimes these days getting some of the kids. It would be more outreach into the schools. They tried the EMT classes in Saki, I believe, 4 or 5 years ago. But it's something to start getting in on career days and stuff like that, but even that,
I mean, I know
it
like
doesn't net.
fire departments, all that's hurting.
Yeah.
To get volunteers to.
It's emergency service wide, it's not just unique to the ambulance.
I think we're in the conversation with Columbia Greene Community College and what else they could do to offer these programs. I'm sure they would be willing.
Yeah, they're doing the EMT program.
They run one through the fall, they usually start out.
Hudson Valley, I think that's 2 every year.
Yep, yeah, they usually do a day program and a night program, and then Cobblesville does a full-time day towards starting August to May.
Does Columbia Greene, through their nursing program, possibly, have students that are qualified at whatever level to ride with the ambulances to get experience and possibly help out? I don't know.
Some agencies do allow like the ride-along programs.
Yeah.
We do take on, Green EMS has done it, and also Catskill has done it.
Yeah.
With the nursing students, part of their clinical rotations.
Right.
They will come and do ride shifts with the ambulances.
Okay.
The unfortunate thing about it on the EMS side is they're coming to learn, yeah, they see what we do, they get a respect for what we do before the patients get to them. But the problem being is they're going for a career that's gonna set them up better financially for whatever their future plans are.
In nursing rather than any of that.
Yeah, so even if they do come and cross-train and end up becoming a paramedic or an EMT or something like that, we only get them on a very per diem
What I'm thinking,
basis.
if they're qualified because of low staffing levels across the board on EMT,
It's different training.
you can't do it.
You know,
It's a
two
different
different
training.
trainings.
I get you. Okay, I don't know.
But they do also go the opposite way where EMTs will do their clinical time in emergency rooms.
Okay.
You know, and
Yeah, but unfortunately, DOH
Yeah.
won't let them cross.
Thank you. So it all comes to us, obviously, from what I'm gathering here, if we need more ambulances, transport's the shortfall. And
At least on peak
does
times.
that go like, so like you're saying a certificate of need, does that go through Remo and the jurisdiction?
That would go
Every
through
who
state
can go
authorization.
where and where the ambulance needs to go?
Remo and DOH.
So it all goes through that. The whole Remo.
We'll start off with the EMS council, try to get as many players on board, even find out who'd be interested in, participating and stuff like that.
I think it's worth it.
And move forward. Because that may be a little incentive down the road for them to have a purpose to put on another crew, Yeah, start looking forward to something.
Yeah. Thank you.
Even the fire service. right?
Absolutely.
is changing, you know, just recently, Catskill fire, Athens now, Hudson, right? Columbia County gets a serious fire, which they just did, come on, now you got 2 fire departments. Even Athens, one engine aerial ladder out of here, going over there, so now that's gonna put a little pressure on the other departments like the county. So you see volunteerism, Sean said emergency services, just
3 building structure fire yesterday in Philmont. 3 buildings burning at the same time in a block. Used 3 tanks to relocate and move apparatus around in about 3 times. That's a huge undertaking, just not in the 911 centers, but to the first responders that staff.
10 years ago, that'd be 3 companies.
Yeah, and then there were also, I think it was Athens and Catskill that both went to the other side of the river, but they're going to stand by in a district where they don't know.
Right.
You know, they don't
And
know.
why they were there,
they got phoned out.
they got toned out to handle calls.
Yep.
In the city of Hudson, as well as the town of Greenport area. Sorganies ended up coming up to stand by in here because the ladder truck that is predominantly here in the Catskill area was committed over to the city of Hudson.
I think Catskill Ladder also services Hunter Mountain, yeah.
We just signed a contract with an MOU with Hunter, Tannersville, and Wyndham for an area device.
Yeah. But that's a little bit of the difference, it shows the difference between the mutual aid plan that exists, because they were able to move those resources before they needed them to an area that was closer to where they were needed.
It'd be
On the
wonderful.
fire side.
Yeah, it'd be wonderful if EMS could just follow that same type of resource relocation.
Yeah.
I mean, not to water it down, but is it over restricted, like through the state regulations? Not like you're looking to circumvent anything, but how do we keep it simple? You know what I mean? Can we, maybe it's a bad term, but like dumb it up, so you can't screw it up. And to make it the most effective and advantageous for everybody in the county, in the neighboring counties, we have to provide aid to them, whereas they provide aid for us.
They've come up with a way. I think there's a lot of personality driven.
Yeah, that needs to go.
Territorial concerns, you would say?
No.
I believe that's a big driving force behind
That's a problem.
trying to
Speed.
We make it a problem. I mean, don't cut off your nose to spite your face. What's the best thing to do for the people? Not your ego.
So what we've done in the past, I know we've done resolutions to our state representatives to declare EMS as an essential service. So far, that hasn't happened. Does that help anything
What's more
funding wise? Well, this, yeah, that's the point, but it's not recognized as
And
an
those in the
essential
Assembly and the
service.
Senate have both been pretty much tabled for.
But if it was recognized that way, does it open up funding from the state level to help any accomplish some of this?
It'd be worth looking into to
I
see
think it
if.
would remove some of the blocking that is currently being put up, so we can't have that liberty of just moving ambulances when we can, and like the fire service. Once you're a fire department, you basically render assistance to your neighbors and so on and so forth without a problem and without any red tape or bureaucratic stuff to go through, because the state has,
The legislation is there already.
right, has
And
basically
they try-
carved out.
And they tried to push that EMS.
Yep.
Several times, got knocked down,
I don't get it.
still on the table,
Call volume wise, where's the heavy lift, fire or EMS?
but right now.
You know, EMS has far more calls per service. It doesn't make
Something to
sense.
look into, not just the essential service aspect of it, but also something like that and working together. And if we beef up the mutual aid, is that something on the state and or federal level that's considered some sort of consolidation effort per se, which may open up more funding opportunities. I don't know if they would view it as that.
Question, do you think with supposedly COVID stimulus plan, I know there's a lot of regulations from what we think we know, only 10% is actually going to COVID. But as far as EMS, I mean, for the last year, you folks in all of our health departments on the counties and everything else doing a fabulous job. And I know that it'll be a one-time thing, but is there a possibility possibly that the local town municipalities can do that to try to help to bring more BLS transporters? I don't know, you know, it's just a thought. I don't know.
Maybe the local municipalities
Yeah.
could get funding for that.
But it's got to be approved by the state.
And then probably even higher, because they would probably wait
Yeah.
for it from.
That's ironic, you know, they throw out, you know, all this, this money and this and that and everything else, but this, we all know it, it's not our first rodeo. And, you know, there's so many demands, you know.
I think the funding that's available for the municipalities, including the county, from that act, would be able to be used for that because it would allow you to respond better in the future
Yes.
to another pandemic.
That's where I was going.
Okay?
Yeah.
The issue for most towns and most municipalities would be, just like you said, it's a one-shot deal for this year, but then it's going to become a budget item for you in the future. So, you know, let's say we wanted to, you know, throw $250,000 into trying to do some sort of mutual aid payments, like what you were saying with Columbia County. You could do that out of that money for this year.
Okay.
Next year, it's going to become a budget item for you.
So steps 22.
Yep.
Well, you got.
Well, if you want to maintain it,
Expenditure.
you know, and then it becomes, they helped you get there, now you have to maintain what you started.
But it seems to me that the towns are providing it, just don't have enough ambulances to help transport.
They're relying on using them usually more than they should have. Due to the increased call volume.
All about what, I'm sure if they can afford a
So I
second.
can't afford a second.
We're also hoping that a lot of this new telemedicine that also just went live with Greene and also Wyndham, Catskill, I believe, Arrow, and Hunter. For starters, are looking at it. Theirs is more extensive to do with startup because they have billing aspects to it, where Greene doesn't actually do billing. Hopefully that will relieve some of the stress of the mutual aid needs, because now if it's not a acuity call, something that could theoretically go to urgent care or a doctor's office, they just can't get there, so they call 911, you get an ambulance. And, oh, they may have sprained their ankle or something. Now we'll have the ability to log on with the telemedicine with a remote physician. They can go through everything. They can determine that that patient may not even need to go to a hospital. They can contact with the patient, let them know, we're calling in a prescription for this antibiotic, or, okay, they're gonna wrap your ankle, I'm setting up your follow-up appointment with ortho, saving these 3-4 hour calls, especially up on the mountain, back in the more rural areas, which will free up units a little quicker and have less downtime. So we're hoping that that'll be a helpful piece.
So the towns haven't started this yet.
They're in the process of getting all the billing approvals and everything through it, because there's only 3 or 4 at the moment, actual insurance companies that have already okayed it all. So now they need to blanket MOUs with the telehealth company and the billing authorization, and then hopefully they'll be going live fairly soon with that. So that could help too, and it's also another revenue stream. So instead of an ambulance taking somebody to a hospital that's gonna get a $50-$60 Medicaid reimbursement and doesn't need to be in a hospital, the telemedicine will be covering that cost. So they'll be recouping something, which may be another avenue for them to be able to start staffing up.
So maybe in another couple months, once that gets started, then we can check the mutual aid flow again.
I think that the telemedicine is a great idea. But we also have to remember that the ski resorts, your prison system, and your nursing homes are not going to use a telehealth medicine. And we're unfortunately have to do a lot of transports out of these facilities. which are a huge, huge task on the EMS services. You know, they're going to taking somebody out of either the Pines or Greene long-term care, and they're over to CMH for a problem that could probably be handled right there at the facility, but they don't have the capabilities at the facility, so they transport them out. Now you have to wait in the parking lot, have them tested, have them cleared before they can even get in there. So it's a very huge, complex problem.
Sounds like another workshop.
Yeah,
There could be a Saturday session. I'll leave it next door for you. All set?
No, I
Mr.
think-
Lawrence, does
I
this sound
think you
familiar?
That's it.
This whole discussion?
I'll be calling.
Oh, yeah.
Thank you.
7 years.
More things change, more they stay the same?
We had the solution.
All right, we're good to go. No other questions. We have one resolution. The resolution is a budget amendment, Greene County Sheriff's for insurance recovery.
Handle.
Handel, Martinez. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? So carry. Motion to adjourn.
Quick
question, please. What's up? Fortunately, we're going in the right direction in fighting this COVID, but we're not there yet. I realize that. My question is this, we all have working careers throughout our adult lives. If somebody calls in sick or whatever, then the business or it doesn't go away and people have to compensate. My question is this, as things progressively get better, can we slowly bring some of our county employees, and they're all very important, and will be decision as to which departments are really falling behind and bring them back. And I wish I could say public health is number one. God bless all of them. But it's just a question, do we see any light when we can start bringing our county employees back into the fold?
We're back 2 months ago, we're back.
No, full-time and they're not doing COVID anymore?
Well, no, we're still doing COVID.
That's what I'm talking about.
Well-
Because they're not in their office doing that, you know? I mean, doing their regular work. That's what I'm asking.
Well, we still have Emergency Operations Center open.
Yes.
So some staff is assigned to the EOC on certain days of the week.
Right.
They rotate staff in and out of there.
Okay.
Some are working vaccine pods.
Yep.
But everybody's back to the office.
You're right on. Yeah. Yeah, what I'm, basically what I'm going is, do we see light where, and then it has to be decided where gotta bring and who is most critical and what departments in Greene County are really falling behind and bring them slowly back into the process. That's what I'm asking. We see light on doing that instead of doing, 2 shifts.
Are you asking about not going to the EOC?
If, when can we
Or when-
start bringing them back? That's what I'm asking. Yeah.
So when are they stopped? When can we stop sending our employees to the EOC?
Yeah, and I'm not saying it's a light switch. I'm saying slowly bring them back as things hopefully get better. We bring more and more back so they can do their jobs as county employees, which they are
They are.
with the COVID. There's no question.
Just, I guess, no departments are under a staggered shift anymore, but Monday, Wednesday, Friday, or the operation of the EOC, I imagine will continue until we rescind the declaration.
Yeah, when we're off the emergency declaration.
Right,
Because that emergency declaration is actually what allows us to take employees who are protected by the unions and be able to move them around as we need to. I don't know that it really plays into it or how far it plays into it. CDC is looking for 75 to 80% of people to be vaccinated. Right now, we're at about 35. I don't know if that will play into.
Right,
when we
okay,
review
yeah,
that.
that's a lot of variables.
When does COVID become 9 to 5 and everything else is normal?
I know, we should be at.
My crystal ball isn't
Yeah.
that clear?
And I will say with the EOC open, you heard John tonight, there was only a handful of calls for public health through the 911 center. That was the point of opening the EOC, was to not direct those calls to the 911 center. It was to direct them to the EOC. That kind of morphed into different dial-in options to kind of direct questions to the right place. But I don't know that I have an answer as to when that EOC is going to.
It's just a concern, and I'm not talking, I'm getting, hundreds of calls, but some people have talked to me, it's just a concern. So I appreciate the time to address it, and we're working on it. We don't have an answer right now. Yeah, and we're working positively on it. That's the important thing, as best we can. Trying.
Well, you have a good point. I mean, we want to get our employees back to
Yes.
doing their regular job.
Yes.
Yeah, in some cases.
I don't remember that.
It's not really, it's not as easy to staff that EOC as you might think.
Right.
Yeah.
Again, it's not something that you can just plug anybody into and put them there real quick. We are at 34.5% right now with at least one dose of the vaccine, so we're getting there
As a county,
I know.
as a county.
Fortunately, it's going in the right direction, but then we're gonna hit the people, it's their prerogatives. They just don't want to take it, but then let's get as far as we
Well,
can.
once we get to herd immunity, that's the best thing.
Exactly, sure.
Yeah, like I say, they're doing 7 days a week working on these pods and either scheduling them, ordering vaccines, or doing the front end or back end work as a result of a pod. They're flat out.
Well, it was nice
With a
discussion.
lot of help.
And we're all, I believe, on the same page, and it was discussion. So, thank you all.
Check.
With that, you're going to second the motion to adjourn the meeting, Jack?
I don't think I can.
I will, Tom. Thanks, Jimmy. We're adjourned.
Thank you.
Lost control right at the end. Right at the